Welcome to another episode of Inside the Gig, where we feature one of the many talented artists playing in Cave Creek, Arizona. Today, my guest, a very special musician traveling to Arizona from California. It's from California, right? From
Yeah, yeah.
California. Arielle Silver, and she will be playing at the Ravensview on Thursday at 5 o'clock and at the Grotto on Friday at 2 o'clock. So, Arielle, welcome to virtual Arizona until you get here.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to almost be here.
Yeah, so we were just, I was laughing right before we did this intro because I want to get the names right. And I think Disney kind of messed up the pronunciation of Ariel. But it's Ariel, not the mermaid name. I'm not even going to say it. Let's not say it. It's Ariel Silver. So,
That's right.
first off, I don't know that I've heard a lot of your music, but you were highly recommended by some of the players that I know that play in Cave Creek. Just kind of describe your style for people like me who have never heard you.
I had a journalist say that my music is like the heart of Laurel Canyon with the soul of the Chelsea Hotel, which for me makes a lot of sense because I grew up on the East Coast. I'm originally from Florida, but I grew up for most of my childhood outside of New York City, and so the Chelsea Hotel is like the center of all of the poets and the writers and the musicians, the songwriters of the for a long time really, but I think of it as like the folk revival of the 70s, and I grew up on that kind of music from my parents, and then the Chelsea or the Laurel Canyon side of it right here, just not too far from where I live now in Los Angeles. Laurel Canyon, of course, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Joni Mitchell, and that whole scene, and so those are kind of like the origins of the songs that I write now. And then, you know, as I grew up going through the Lilith Fair years, you know, Tracy Chapman and Natalie Merchant and all of those great women songwriters who were really being celebrated in the 90s. So that was really when I was getting my start as a songwriter.
So tell us about some of the songs you've written.
Oh man. Well, I've lived in a lot of places, and I think of a lot of my songs as being rooted in where I've been from. I have a new song called Bramblevine, which to me is really associated with my home in New Jersey when I was growing up. And then I have a song that was on my most recent album that just came out during the pandemic. The song is called What Really Matters, and it's really a California song to me. It was inspired by the wildfire season and questions about what are your values, and when when you're under threat of these wildfires that are just burning hot and fast and all over the state, that particular year especially, you know just raised some questions that I would never have thought of in my homes back east. And so I guess I think about that. A lot of my songs are in my mind place based.
Place-based
Place
songs.
based, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like a plant-based diet, but different. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I have no idea.
That's funny. I like
So
that.
you're driving in from California. You're bringing the rains with you because I think it's supposed to. We're filming this on, and is filming even the right word anymore? I don't know. We're recording this on Monday, virtually through via the lovely technology provided by Zoom. We're doing this on Monday, and I think it's going to be raining on Tuesday night or Tuesday morning early, and you'll be driving in from California, so you'll be bringing a welcome cool off for us before we get into the blazing hot summer.
Yeah,
Um,
this is a good rainstorm, by the way. If you guys are going to be getting it tomorrow, I'll just let you know it's a good one. Get your galoshes out. You'll be splashing in puddles.
well, I don't want to use this platform, these interviews, to plug my own gigs, but if it's raining on Tuesday, it means I'm playing at Janie's, and that is true. I'm playing at Janie's on Tuesday night, and it'll be raining somewhere in Arizona. But anyway, so you have a bunch of original material, I'm sure, but you do a lot of cover stuff. I'm guessing if you're a gigging musician, a lot of gigging musicians do some cover songs. What's your favorite cover song to play? Not because the audience loves it, but because it's something you
Oh,
love to perform.
oh, you know what? That's gonna have to be Mr. Bojangles.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's a song that it's probably the first song I ever knew as a human being on this planet. The first song that I ever knew was a song, really. I guess my dad was a guitar strummer when I was little, and we'd sit at the fireplace, and he'd play all these songs, and Mr. Bojangles was just it was just one of those songs he played. I really associate it more than, I don't know, he played Taxi by Harry Chapin, and he played Circle Game by
Oh
Joni
yeah,
Mitchell. He played all those songs, but there's something about Mr. Bojangles, I don't know why, but it's stuck in my mind. And when I started playing it myself for my own gigs, there's just something that feels full circle for me.
yeah.
It feels like, in homage of my dad, and just where I came from and the songs that influenced me when I was young.
So it sounds like you got your start as a kid listening to a parent playing a guitar and singing songs, and that was
Yeah.
a big influence. How did you transition from just being interested in that into saying, "Hey, I'm going to earn a living doing this"?
Oh man, earning a living. That was a long transition, but I'll say that I was talking. I'm working on my next album right now, and I was talking with my producer, and he said that he didn't start singing till he was in his 30s, I think he said, and that just blew my mind because I thought that everybody started singing when they were zero. I thought that singing was just one of those things that
Right.
children naturally did. I certainly did. And so for me, singing along with my dad, and then when I moved up north, that was down in Florida originally, and when I moved up north, I started going to, luckily, some Broadway shows, and a relative took me to see Annie on Broadway, and of course, I'm one of the 1,000 little girls in the audience that's singing "Tomorrow, Tomorrow," at the top of my lungs, along with Annie on the stage, and singing was just it was just the same as the other things that you do absolutely naturally, like drinking water and eating food, and as a child running around, and
Sure.
singing was part of that. So I started playing instruments when I was in elementary school. I was lucky enough to be in a public school system that had a really fantastic music program, and my babysitter played clarinet, and so she started giving me clarinet lessons. And I grew up studying classical music primarily.
Oh,
I did classical music and Renaissance music in college, um, and it was sometime in college that in these classical based ensembles, I was sitting in an orchestra or in a chamber group and reading sheet music, and it was so awesome, but it felt somehow like close, but like next door to where I should be living. Like
yeah.
I was in the right neighborhood, but I was in the wrong house. And my sophomore year of college, I I don't know where I found this, but I found a bass guitar. I picked up the bass, and after a couple of months of bass, I was like, I still feel like I'm next door to where I want to be, and I bought a guitar. It was a Montana acoustic guitar. I bought it for $75, and I painted it. It was a really, like, the action was a mile high off the fretboard, and it was great. When I picked up that guitar, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to write a song. And so songwriting really started for me, I think, you know, I mean, really just dipping my toes into it, but it was very earnest right from the beginning. It was like, oh yeah, this is the house I want to be living in. So I guess
Well,
that's
I
maybe
just
where
want
it
to mind
started.
interrupt you. I just want to point out to people listening to this interview. She's going to be at Ravensview at 5 o'clock on Thursday, and you can hear her word choice in the interview, and you can tell, man, this lady can write some songs. I'm just telling you. People don't use those kinds of words and that kind of phrasing. She's painting pictures with every sentence, and so I imagine your songs are going to be out of this world.
Oh man, thank you so much.
What's true, you can tell. So you're talking about neighborhoods and houses and
Yeah.
describing music genres, and that's got to be songwriting, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. I love with songwriting, I love scenery and setting and character and relationships and metaphor, and I really like thinking of them as like 3 minute stories. The economy of words, you just have a couple of verses, a chorus, maybe a bridge, and how can you paint a complete picture using just a few words and melodic motifs to draw people in, that sort of thing. I think a lot about that stuff.
Yeah, and people that have heard me play, again, this is not going to be about me, but I'm from the South, and so I can make a John Mayer song sound a little country, and but those country ballads, I mean, they're telling stories that
Yeah.
people remember, over and over and over, and it sounds like you're doing the same thing in a singer songwriter. I don't know if I want to label you as folk or Americana, or how
Yeah,
would
it
you
all
label
works.
yourself?
Yeah,
What title would you give yourself? What
yeah.
where would we find your CDs if there was a place to go find CDs? Where would that be?
Yeah, all that stuff. It would be an Americana, indie folk, sometimes folk rock, depending on the production of the song. Singer-songwriter. It's all in that. There was a review of my last album in a magazine called Americana UK out of the UK,
Mhm.
and the whole article is about how great the album is, but the question, you know, was it actually Americana? And it was really funny how the reviewer just went down that road, and they were like, is this Americana? Well, yeah, it is Americana, but why is it Americana? And, what are the elements that make up Americana? And this is a great sounding record, but, can we be reviewing it in this magazine? So it was a really funny review, but I appreciated the conversation because, what's genre really? Like if you were to
Yeah,
go to a record store and buy a CD, the record store needs to put that CD in a place where you will find it. So
yeah.
they're like, okay, well, what else do you like? If you like Jason Isbell and you like Chris Stapleton and you like Brandy Carlisle, okay, we'll put an Arielle Silver record, because that's the family, that's the
Right.
family tree. Those are like all the cousins and everything. But when it comes down to it, it's like each artist is so completely unique to themselves. So.
So we've talked a bunch about your music, but you do some online things that are kind of interesting. I think you do I want to say there's the word tome is in there. I can't, is it tunes
Yeah,
and tomes or
tomes and tunes.
tomes and tunes? There you go. I really should prepare. You sent me this.
I'm a big fan of Flying by the Seat of My
There you
Pants,
go.
so
Yeah.
Kevin, you're all good in my book.
Well, like I told you, but we did briefly before we did this interview. If I got to spend 4 hours doing one of these, then I'm not going to do very many of them. So it's nice to do these one-shot interviews on Zoom. And you would do a thing called Tomes and Tunes, where you interview somebody to just talk about that show.
Yeah, kind of like what you just said. The idea is not to get overburdened by, making what should be like what is the word I'm looking for? Like a fancy, like it was a flight of fancy. Like, oh, let me do this thing. Let's just have songwriters on and we'll talk about books and we'll talk about music and what it's like to be an artist. And it started during the very, very beginning of COVID and right at the very beginning when we had our lockdown quarantine here in Los Angeles and all around the world really. And so how could songwriters who were no longer bumping into each other at festivals and in the green rooms at venues, and we just weren't crossing paths because we weren't out on the road.
Right.
So how could we continue having conversations? And the very first episode, I didn't know it was going to be a series, and I was just doing this live stream with a songwriter friend of mine who lives in Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and another songwriter friend who lives in Austin, Texas,
Oh,
was
wow.
tuning in and listening. And so me and the songwriter from Massachusetts, naturally, we both love books, and so naturally we started talking about authors that we love. And the songwriter in Texas who was tuning in, she was like, oh, Tomes and Tunes. And so, we can thank Harriet Reynolds from Texas and Ann Stott from Provincetown, Massachusetts for,
And,
coming up with that name. But, we're coming up on the, I think last week was the 91st episode.
oh,
So
wow.
I'm just looking forward to the 100th episode in a couple months. And it's been really awesome to talk with songwriters from literally around the world. I think the next episode next week is going to be with someone in Australia. That'll be my
Oh, wow.
first Australian interview.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So how can
Yeah.
people find your Tomes and Tunes podcast or interview or whatever we're calling that medium?
Yeah, they can find it on my website, ariellesilver.com or ariellesilvermusic.com. Starting with the 100th episode, hopefully it will be distributed on audio podcast platforms. Right now it goes live on YouTube and Facebook almost every Thursday, but not this Thursday because I will be performing at
You'll
Ravensview
be in Ravensview.
on Thursday at the time that I usually do my podcast. So I'm going to skip this week.
Well, as much as I don't like having a gig on a rainy day like Tuesday, I think the rain will come through, clean out the sky a little bit for you. I think when you're at Ravensview Thursday at 5, you're going to see a fantastic sunset, and you're going to
Ooh.
see more stars than you've seen in a long time. So it's a beautiful patio, and Kim and her place, a wonderful place to be. And then likewise, Grotto on Friday from 2 to 5, you're going to catch the late lunch crowd, the early weekend crowd. It is a tree-covered patio, wonderful food and staff there as well. So you've got 2 great gigs in Cape Creek. I'm going to encourage
Yeah.
everybody to see Arielle. See, I said it right that time. Arielle Silver not the mermaid. Arielle, the songwriter Arielle, not the mermaid, at Ravensview. Oh, I wanted to ask you. Oh, what was the song that? Oh, I had a good question for you. Oh, I know. It's fleeting. It's gone. To get you to play, you're going to play Mr. Bojangles. Oh, I know what it was. How big a tip do you need to play tomorrow at your gig from the wonderful Broadway production of
Oh
Annie?
my gosh. Wow,
What kind of tip would that take?
that's
Could
a
a
great
20 get
question.
us a rendition of tomorrow, maybe? I don't
Oh,
know.
that's so funny. I've never even considered. That is a really great idea, though. That's
Well,
a
I think
fantastic. It's such an
somebody,
optimistic
not, I think
song.
somebody, not me, is going to come up at Ravens on Thursday and say, "I hear you can do
Yeah.
tomorrow."
Yeah,
So,
I totally dug myself into that hole today.
yes, you did.
Uh, uh, uh.
It's okay. It's all good.
Oh
You're going to
man.
have a great show on Thursday. I will be there to catch a video of you. I'm going to encourage everyone watching this to get to know Arielle Silver, great musician out of California, who will be in Arizona this weekend. Oh, hey, where else are you playing in Arizona? I think you're at
Mm.
Ravens on Thursday, Grotto on Friday. What are your? Let's talk about your other shows. You got a show on Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, Saturday I'll be at the at Desert Valley House Concerts in Apache Junction playing a house concert. I'm really excited about that. I think that, the house concerts are just so intimate and they're really an opportunity to connect and dig deeper into some stories and they're just beautiful. So I'm looking forward to that show on Saturday night, and then on Sunday I'll be down in Tucson for the Tucson Folk Festival. I'm playing at noon at the festival, and super excited to see some friends out there and to catch some really great music and visit Tucson for the first time. I've never been there, so
Oh wow, it's a
yeah.
beautiful town. My son graduated from U of A, so I've been to Tucson a handful of times. Where's the folk festival held there in Tucson?
Ooh,
You
that's
know?
a really fabulous
Oh
question.
well,
Since
people
I
can
don't,
look it up. Look it
yeah,
up.
since
Drive to
I don't know the
Tucson and
town,
ask
I'm
them.
like,
Yeah.
as far as I know, the only thing in the town is the festival. So I'm like, oh, well, it's being held at the festival. Like, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's a free festival, so people, can take a little road trip and go down and, yeah, and say
There
hi.
you go. Perfect. Fantastic. Ariel, I hope you have a safe drive as you head east to Arizona from California.
Yeah.
And I know everybody will love your music on Thursday at 5 o'clock at Ravensview and on Friday at 2 o'clock at the Grotto here in Cave Creek. Thank you so much for your time.
Yay. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me.